Hey, what is up, agents? It's me, AgentSD3. We are here doing something totally different for the podcast. We're going to start doing interviews with other content creators of color specifically. And today, we are joined by the amazing GohanOXG, a.k.a. my son, allegedly. I know, look, Neosmith, you missed out, man, all right? But I've known Gohan since 2013?
2013, 2012,
somewhere in there. And at some point, I guess he was adopted because I was the oldest one of our friend group, and it just kind of spiraled into this whole dynamic family. But anyway,
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, myself and Neosmith are gonna be chatting with GohanOXG, and this is gonna be about him and not other topics that we're gonna be covering in the podcast and kind of the work that he's been doing. So I'm gonna stop talking and let Gohan introduce himself.
Hey everybody, it's GohanOXG. I also go by the name. My actual name is Nate Roberts. The primary thing that I do in terms of I guess my profession and career choices is voiceover or voice acting. I've been doing it for going on 8 years now, essentially self-taught. A lot of what I've done over the years has been impressions, but I've had my projects here and there where I've done my original voices. Most people do know me for my impressions. And I've done a lot of different material, usually anime oriented. Growing up, anime and cartoons and video games is what really inspired me to try this. And it's always been something that I've done since I was little, just mimicking voices, trying to blend in and act as characters that always amused me, and always certain situations where I might have related to them. And it was just always something fun for me to do. So that's what I take up as far as a profession.
And what are some voice actors who inspired you to pursue this profession?
Geez, I can go on for days with that, but from different cartoons to different anime, but a lot of the ones I like to name off the top of my head are like Monica Riel, Patrick Seitz, Christopher Sabat, Sean Schummel, Yuri Lowenthal, Colin Clickenbeard, Kyle Hebert, Steve Blum, Kirk Thornton, Troy Baker, Matthew Mercer, Johnny Young Bosch, a lot of the ones like them. Like people who from cartoons such as Tom Kenny, Gray Delisle, Tara Strong, Phil Lamar. A lot of those have been really my big inspirations, honestly, because those are the ones I hear the most, I would venture to say, and the ones that I guess cling to my ear a lot. So it's always been nice to hear them, and hearing them always brings a spark out.
And those are all people I think that a lot of our listeners and people who are maybe watching this right now are familiar with. I mean, pretty much everyone that you've mentioned, I think I've heard at least once across Cartoon Network, anime in general. Some of the most prolific voice actors I think you could possibly hear today.
Right.
But kind of in that vein, when you look at the things that have inspired you into this space, what franchises, if you could get your hands on any of them, right, either as an original character or taking over a role for someone else, what franchise would you really want to kind of get invested in? It doesn't have to be anime. It could be anything. It could be anime, cartoons, any opportunity where you could do voice acting and kind of use that skill.
If I had to think, I have a couple of mine, but if I had to think, one series, this is one of my favorite anime series, if it ever were to get a resurgence and ever get produced again, Demon Wonderland, because I would love to be a part of that. Dragon Ball being the most obvious thing, I would definitely like to be somewhere in that. I've always kind of had a thing about wanting to be a part of something related to Batman or Teen Titans as well. If even Avatar, the Avatar series ever actually got anything like The Last Airbender, I would love to be a part of that in some vein. Another one this is more specifically in video games, but I would actually like to be somebody in Devil May Cry.
True.
And that'd be awesome. I could see you, especially in the Devil May Cry space. Now that you say that.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question. Do you see yourself being more of a voice actor for gaming or just animated shows, or is there really no preference for you?
No preference necessarily. I mean, even if it were cartoon stuff or commercial stuff, that would be nice too. But I think my most direct interest would be anime or games, honestly.
True.
Can you tell? You mentioned this before. You've done some of the projects for yourself, or I guess working with other folks. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the projects that you've worked on right now? Because then maybe we can share some of those things. Not maybe we can share some of those things in the description below, so you guys can go and check out some of Gohan's or Nate's most recent work.
For sure. There's been a lot of different projects I worked throughout history, and some that I'm still working on now. A large portion of them was a lot of like different Dragon Ball and Naruto machinima material. One of the first ones that it was actually like one of the first big projects I was a part of called Takadeno Team by a Naruto YouTuber who went by Storms HD, which was like a Storm machinima story. You, AgentSD3, had your own, with which Fate X Destiny, where we used the layout of Naruto for. Good friend of mine, Soul X or Luna X Soul, his Dragon Ball machinima by the name of Tenzo's Legacy, which takes on kind of his own interpretation of like an after Dragon Ball story. Another friend of ours, Omnon the Great, who does Saga of K, which is also another after Dragon Ball story. Friend of mine by the name of Brendan80275, who does Dragon Ball Boken, and it's his own original Dragon Ball timeline. There was another old project that I did way back when, which was called Naruto Tensei, which was actually an audio drama.
Oh, wow.
Covering what if AU scenarios for Naruto and a lot of different in-between moments that like wasn't really covered in the actual series. Dragon Ball Gohanverse, which is a SFM Blender animation that's recently been coming out, called done by Data Modachi, and I voice Piccolo in that. I also voice Mori in an Oran High School manga dub, and I also voice Louis in a Beastars manga dub.
Wow. So it sounds like you've got quite a few things, to say the least, on your plate.
Yeah.
Which is wild because, like, I feel like, well, I guess I've known you since really the start of this journey. So it's been cool to to see kind of like that growth and development, and the fact that like you just have projects on projects on projects and things that you can claim as your own, which is awesome.
Right.
Yeah, thing too, and I didn't realize you did voice acting for so many characters. So that's pretty impressive, man. And that leads me to my next question. So you see like these big animated films that are produced by Hollywood, but a lot of the voice acting is done by major actors over voiceovers. How do you feel about that?
As in like a lot of typecasting, you mean? Happening?
Well, not really that, but like perfect example. So like Lion King, right? Instead of using a voiceover or a voice actor for that, they go to big names, celebrities like Beyonce or Childish Gambino. Do you feel like voiceover actors get snubbed a lot for roles like that?
Yeah, in a lot of situations, I do believe so. And there are situations where I feel like they might just have like just go-tos in terms of like people that they pick out for different roles, which snuffs out, like you said, like it snuffs out a lot of different voice talent, because God knows there's more than enough to go around, and there's too many situations where people don't scout out. They scout out people that would probably suit certain roles better, or just as well as whatever they handpick, and that can be really irritating when typecasting happens, because people just always go to go-tos. And even a lot of the voice actors I've named off are oftentimes typecasted for different types of characters, but there's definitely new people out there that they could pick off that would probably do things very well, and they could also be voices heard and received just as well.
Interesting that you say that, because I was having a conversation with someone kind of in the same vein about how, because I work in film production, not necessarily specifically for animation, just kind of film production in general, about working with kind of the difference of working with like a voice actor or someone who, because I feel like all actors are actors, right? Voice actors are actors, but someone who specializes in voice acting, do you feel like the approach is totally different than, say, a Kevin Hart, who like is really just allowed to be themselves? And in that case, do you feel like as a voice actor, when you're kind of crafting a character, what kind of goes into actually crafting a character when you're not being told, hey, yeah, just read these lines and like, add your personality to it?
Um, as far as crafting, I would just venture to say, I always try to like ask what like even if I don't get a direct kind of voice type, if there's like a design or an appearance of what the character looks like, background, demeanor, personality, things they've been through, and I usually go off of like just like I said, visuals and like personality and background usually to try to think of what would suit them the best. Usually, um, and that's always an interesting thing because yeah, there's situations where actual actors, they might be able to be more of themselves as opposed to just actually trying to insert themselves into a character. Um, and I guess that all just depends on what they're doing.
Right.
There's probably more. There's probably different. There's probably voice stuff where people will get to be a little bit more themselves or be a little more in their natural range. But it really just depends on what type of project you're in, as far as like I guess crafting and what you're going to be doing with it.
True. And that that makes sense too. And I guess it follows up to another question too that I have about that. So the average pay for voice actor, I mean, it's not that high, but if a celebrity was to do a voice acting role or voiceover in a big major Hollywood movie, they get paid double that as a voiceover. And like I know that must be like a big challenge that you must have to face some at times too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's always that situation because I feel like there's a lot of situations where voice acting really isn't looked upon as much of as a profession, and I mean that kind of goes around entertainment in general.
Right.
Different things about entertainment people look at around just not a job or anything like that or anything that as worth. My mom sings and she's been a part of it. It's something else of the voice, and she's been doing that for nearly 30 years. And there's been times where she still had to tell people that I don't sing for free. It's the dynamic of just knowing your worth, and if people recognize what you do as a service and as a talent and as something that not everybody can do, because people think anybody can do this and that, but of course not everybody can do it as good or in the same way. And I would venture, I do feel like it's unfair in certain scenarios where like a person who's already a celebrity can just come in and do voiceover, even though that might not be what they're primarily known for, and just make that much more bank comparatively to somebody who's more in tune in that job, in that role, in that profession. So I definitely think that can be considered unfair. Get the people who are set for this for that, basically.
Right. Yeah, no, I oh, go ahead. Yeah, I think that plays a lot into that, right? When they're making those decisions, it's always interesting to think about other countries and specifically Japan, right? And knowing that like a voice actor or a savior to you, the way they're treated over there is totally different, right? It's like they're the rock stars of that entertainment space, which makes sense because most of their stuff is anime. But I often wonder if we will ever reach a point that maybe not be the same as it is in Japan, because I don't think that's even possible just because of like the way they consume content and how we consume content here in the States. But do you kind of see us moving in a more positive direction, at least, where voice actors are being treated with more respect overall? Like it's becoming a profession that seems more I hate to use the word respectable because it's all work is respectable work, right? But do you kind of feel like it's moving in that direction, or maybe somewhere else?
I guess it's kind of half and half, but like, and it all depends on where I'm looking. A lot of the times I'm looking, it's for a lot of different things, is Twitter. And I would say that voice acting overall, people who especially like English dub voice actors are becoming a lot more recognized, becoming a lot more appreciated. I think English dubbing overall is being recognized more and it's being received more positively. And it's being received that way from like being separate from like regular acting, quote unquote.
Right.
And I think there's a lot more newer talent that are coming along that people are starting to recognize, and I'm glad for that, and I hope that it stays that way. Of course, you're always going to have your people who aren't as keen about, especially when it comes to like English dub voice actors, because there's the people who are like elitists to the Japanese and stuff like that. But I do believe that there is more. I think that's becoming more of a minority now.
Nice. Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah, because I've kind of creeped in on a few of the conversations on Twitter. I don't really join in on them myself. I just find them interesting. Oftentimes you're retweeting them or responding to them. So I just find that kind of space interesting to kind of see, what everybody's thoughts are about dubs and subs and all that kind of stuff. Because I feel like it's growing up. Dragon Ball as a kid was like the peak of dubbing, and then now, like a decade or so removed, people are like, it's really not that good. From like a technical standpoint. And even like, I've been rewatching Yu-Gi-Oh! GX and realizing I always knew 4Kids butchered anime when it came to dubbing them, but realizing how much it completely fucks up a source material. And I guess for you as an actor, I assume it's kind of important to be able to like, when you're crafting a character, or whether it's somebody that's new, or you're taking up a mantle of, let's say, Sasuke, right? Do you find that you pull more from the Japanese, like the original Japanese version, the dub, or kind of find like a middle ground when you're crafting those voices, impressions in that case, I guess?
Usually the dub, but there are different situations where I try to like have a blend of the both to kind of like, I guess, try to find something that would still naturally suit it without just going straight off of one side or the other. Because a lot of people like to turn down impressions as a part of voice acting. Being an impressionist, being able to do impressions of insert already existing character here with already a voice doesn't make you a voice actor, but I do believe that it's still a part of voice acting. It's something that can help you practice, learn your range, and just, it can help you in the regards of acting. Because doing the voice is voice acting for a reason. You can do the voice, but you need to be able to act, and you need to be able to emote with it. So that's all important as far as it goes. And by the end of the day, going for an impression sometimes will help. But if you want to think of your own type of thing, that helps as well.
That makes sense.
Yeah. If you could voice any known character, like officially, who would you pick and why?
Any known character.
Because I know you mentioned that you want to do like stuff with like Batman and things.
Off the top of my head, if I had to give like maybe like a top 3, it would be you mean like taking over a role, right? Madara Uchiha from Naruto Shippuden, Alucard from the Hellsing series, and actually, in regards of Batman, I actually would like to take up possibly Joker.
Oh,
I would actually always
okay.
be interested in playing like the Joker in some vein.
You see, I would never expect that at all.
I always, characters like Madara, like Alucard, like Joker, the big masterminds, the very eccentric characters, the characters who have like, I guess like a rep. They're battle hungry, they're cocky, they're the shit and they know it and they can back it up. Characters like that, the real nonchalant ones too, are always the ones that get to me. Like, and they're usually antagonists. So
Gotcha.
Yeah, those are the type of roles that always get me going.
Cool seeing you voice over a Joker. Like now that I think about it, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of different like, and Joker's always been one of those characters who's had a lot of different voice roles, but of course the iconic one is Mark Hamill, obviously. But there are a lot of different interpretations of him that I've heard. Like Troy Baker has done Joker before, and it's amazing. I've heard John DiMaggio do him before, and a lot of different other people from like the different DC films to like the different DC TV shows have done them, and it's always nice hearing somebody do something different with them.
Yeah, it is, and it's also interesting to see how they all are almost interconnected, right? Like they all seem to play off each other in some way, shape, or form, whether it's live action, a game, animation. So yeah, no, seeing your take on Joker would be pretty interesting. Just because I just feel like it'd be an opportunity to hear a different side of your voice too. Because I'm so used to, just from us kind of like, bullshitting around for the past, 8 years of just like knowing each other, and just like hearing each other's work and whatnot. Well, specifically your work in voice acting. I always see like that, like the anti-hero role in my head, like the Sasuke's, the Madaras of the world, those sorts of things. So it'd be really cool to kind of just see something different or hear something different.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one, Sid.
But so we're gonna be wrapping up here soon. But I do have a couple more thoughts that I'm curious to see, kind of like where your experience is being a black voice actor, right, in this space that feels like it's overwhelmingly white. Even though we know that there are a lot of amazing black voices out there. For you on this journey, have you felt that kind of like as a black content creator, you've had to kind of move differently than some of your colleagues, or your contemporaries when you're going for roles or looking for things that you want to pursue?
From my personal experience, I can't really say that I've had any difficulty deriving from that necessarily. But I do believe that it's definitely something that's become a difficulty amongst other VAs in that regard, and it's always interesting because there's like the dynamic of when people say if there's a character who's considered someone of color, and then they don't get somebody of color to voice them, or one of the recent events I remember seeing on Twitter, which was kind of a reverse, a character in My Hero Academia by the name of Motoka, her English VA, Anirise, I can't remember her last name off the top of my head, but people were just going on about how she apparently didn't fit the role, didn't sound black enough, even though she is. And well, I think Motoka is actually Latino, but I'm not sure. But she is of color, and people were saying that she didn't sound of color, didn't sound black enough, or didn't sounded white and stuff like that, and that's always tough.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no. Yeah, I was gonna say I think that's an interesting conversation, because I feel like in recent years, specifically around like cancel culture, and we all have our opinions about it. We don't need to get into that now. But I feel like those conversations just came out of nowhere, right? Where like in the past, I've never thought about it as an issue, not because I don't think it could be one, but because for me it's always been but like, where do you draw that line, right? Because if you look at characters like Goku, my man's an alien, so like it doesn't really matter who, in my mind, who voices them. But I guess when you're talking about characters who are based in reality in some way, shape, or form, me personally, I don't know if it matters, because if the voice fits, the voice fits. But I don't know.
Yep. That's a tough thing too, because like I remember there was situations going on where a lot of people were actually like, they might have been white playing a black role, and they actually dropped the role for somebody else or gave it to somebody else. I can't remember offhand, but I think that might have happened with like Cleveland Brown from the Family Guy and American Dad, stuff like that. And that kind of threw me off at the same time, because like I feel like I believe Mike Henry is his name, who voiced Cleveland Brown, and I feel like he always fit, despite the fact that he is white. But nonetheless, I feel like he crafted what that character was for what it was, and he made the character what it is for what people loved. And it wasn't an issue back then. It's something that kind of became an issue, and then there's certain situations where I feel like some people would do that for damage control per se. But on the other side, I do feel like there should be more of a dynamic of matching VAs to the characters as well, like if they are somebody of color. But and that's just as far as representation is concerned, because everybody deserves that, obviously. But even beyond that, it still narrows down to what suits, regardless of whatever. The color shouldn't be the direct reason why. You say I'm gonna take this black person, put him over this black person. That's it. I'm gonna take this white person, put him on the white character. That's it. It should still be a big part of it. Should still revolve around what voice suits. Right. Regardless of what the person is in that regard.
That was something I was going to mention too, like before I get to my next question, but it's just annoying to me that people would say, "Oh, you don't sound black for this role." Like, so to me, it's like, what does sounding black mean to you?
Right.
Like, how is a black person supposed to speak? And like, when you hear comments like that, I'm sure it's like very like degrading, and you probably get annoyed of that a lot.
And that's this is going into a different topic, but still related. It's just like it's something to always think about, because even us as black people will sometimes will say sounding black or sounding white in that regard, but it's just like not everybody sounds the same necessarily.
Yeah.
Right.
But there are like distinct things. I guess there shouldn't be necessarily something a part of like genes as to where your race matches or defines your voice, I guess. And even if they don't sound like that, it still doesn't mean it can't fit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Different things can fit for different characters and whatnot, different roles.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think going even deeper on what you mentioned is, what do you do about characters who are mixed?
Yep.
Like you know what I mean? Like that muddies it a little bit more. To me, I think it's different when we're talking about live action. I think live action is a totally different conversation. But I think when we're talking about voices, like we are all black folks here. All three of us sound totally fucking different, right? Despite what anybody might say, we all sound different. I can't tell you how many times, which is always weird, where like me and the crew have all been in a voice chat, and like somebody we've never met before comes in and starts confusing us amongst each other. I don't know how that happens, but like we all sound different. I don't understand that at all, you know.
Right.
So, you know, I agree with you. It's like what is sounding like a insert race here sound like? If you're talking about the way people speak, like the word choices that they use, those sorts of things, that's not defined by race. That's defined by like where you lived, your upbringing, like those sort of which, you know, again, gets into a whole other argument and breakdown of like why these things happen and why certain quote unquote groups of people speak the way they do because of all these other systemic things. But I don't think that should define who gets to voice what character, because I just think that's a slippery slope.
And that's a good point to bring up, like with mixed roles, because like anybody can sound like anything. And it's like it would be stupid for an outrage to start coming along when there's insert characters of series that are mixed, and then people start flipping shit because they don't sound like a mixed person. Like, how do you even get that?
Yeah, so, yeah, it's a slippery slope, I think.
Knowing where you draw the line and whatnot. When is it actually an issue? When is it something that actually affects the people? And when is it just narrowed down to just something of choice? That's all.
Right.
What suits.
If you can work with any voice actor, who would it be?
Work with, There's a lot of them, honestly. A lot of the ones I named off would be one, but if I had to name off the top of my head, one in particular that I've noticed myself giving a lot of credit to is Kirk Thornton. He's the voice of Kisame from Naruto. He voices Yujiro Hanma in the Baki series, the more recent one on Netflix. He has recently taken up the role of Shadow the Hedgehog in the Sonic games.
Oh wow!
Oh, yep. I never knew that.
And there's a couple other roles that he plays, but I cannot take name off the top of my head. And it's a funny thing with that background too, because one of the very first roles that one of the very first voice impressions I did was actually Kisame from Naruto.
I remember that.
Yep. And that was the one that people said, that's it, you got it. And I kind of took to that, and I took to that a lot with Kirk Thornton, and that kind of gave me a lot of respect. And I started, I guess, analyzing his voice a lot, and just, it was always nice to hear him, and he was just a really nice influence, and he would definitely be somebody I would like to work with, honestly.
That'd be fire, especially. Yeah, I remember those days, this man with the Kisame hacks videos and all this other stuff. Man, that was the time, man. That was a time. I can't believe that was like so long ago now. Like that feels like it was yesterday, but nah, it was damn near a decade ago. But so I gotta ask, out of all the things that you've worked on, right? Do you have a favorite? And if you do, what was it? Doesn't have to be. It could be impression wise. It could be something original. Of all the things that you've had the opportunity to lend your voice to, if you had to pick one, maybe three, what would you say it would be?
Okay, I'm gonna go with one that I've had in my mind that's still like something that I go back to, very proud of, just especially with its feedback and just so. It was months after Dragon Ball Super had ended, and me, a friend of mine by the name of Cal's Kingdom, another friend of mine I mentioned earlier, Soul X or Lunar X Soul, and a lot of other mutual voice actors of ours chose to do the very final moment of the Tournament of Power. Well, the last ring out of Goku and Frieza versus Jiren and 17 helping out. And we believe that we honestly, we believe it, and it's nothing to speak in terms of ego. But even as far as feedback that we got from a lot of people said that we did better than the original dub.
Oh, wow.
I believe it. I definitely believe it.
Yeah, and I remember actually hearing the dub version for the that final moment, and it was honestly kind of underwhelming comparatively. Like, and I don't know if that had to do with things with COVID or just like rushing or anything like that, but like, I remember like listening to Dragon Ball Super Broly in the dub, things sounded better in performance. Listening to earlier instances of the Tournament of Power and earlier instances of Super, things sounded better in performance, and we did this very soon after the show ended, and a lot of people believed it should have been like the official dub. A lot of people, after hearing the official dub, thought that it topped, and it's something that we were very proud of, and I was very proud of doing. I voiced Jiren, Cal voiced Goku, and Soul had voiced Frieza.
Nice. Well, if you
Pretty
could
cool.
send us that link, please, we'll put that in the description box below so people can go and check it out. I might play it at the end of this as well, so you can just hear it out. But Gohan, Nate, I really want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us outside of us doing the podcast and really just getting a chance to highlight some of your work and some of the things that you're doing. So please, can you tell the people where they can find you, where they can find your work and support you? Because that's what we want everybody to do, is please support this man.
Most where you can find my work will be centrally around YouTube. It'll be on my YouTube at GohanOXG. Most of what you'll find, if you're gonna look for like my work directly, you can just go to my playlist, because I do have a playlist that lines up all of the voice work that I've been, or most throughout the past. So, and I update it regularly when different things get dropped. You can check my Twitter at GohanOXG. There are things I'll upload periodically on there. And I'll actually be doing a voice acting account specifically just to separate things. And if you follow me on there, you'll see when that comes about. But mainly YouTube, and you can also find my same name, GohanOXG, on a casting call club. So that's where mostly you'll be hearing me from.
All right, bet. So y'all heard the man. Make sure you go check him out. The links will be in the description box below, regardless of what you're watching on YouTube or you're listening to the audio version on Spotify, Spreaker Radio, etc. You guys will be able to go and check my brother out. Again, I want to thank you for coming out, and for Neosmith for helping produce this podcast interview. He is our #1 producer. We got to give him his props and shit. And I'm hoping that the video version works for YouTube and that we're not all crazy desynced, because this shit was fire, and we're probably going to have to do this more often. But yeah, Neosmith, did you have anything you want to wrap up with?
No, I just want to say thank you, Nate. Real proud of you for all the work you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. Keep it up, bro. And again, like, people support him. Like,
I do commissions. If you want good work, I do the best I can, and I think it's worth the bill. It's worth the $1.
And I can attest to it. Anybody who was in Fate X remembers Fate X Destiny. This man was 80% of the cast. So those are the days. But anyway, guys, we really appreciate you coming out tonight, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.